Okay, so it is almost time. Oh, he's actually got.
Oh, it is time.
Yeah, okay. I got a little distracted. I got to the recording real fast. Okay. So let me make sure I get and then we will get started. I'm glad everybody found us and showed up. I know you are all my real diehards because you show up today even despite our little registration issues that we had with that.
So if you want, email me their website and I'll look later. I'm not going to look now.
Inventors. We'll go live. And okay. So I am going to mute everybody. I have now found out that we cannot unmute all at the end. So everybody turn your chat on so that you can ask questions and that we'll keep communicating through the chat function. And we are ready to go. So, okay, thanks, we're ready. Okay, so welcome everybody to our historic happy hour for today. I think I have pretty much all returning guests, so that's exciting for us. I really love seeing the community that we've built with these nightly events. This is very cool for us that there are people who love what we're doing and want to keep coming back every night. So I'll keep this short. You've heard this introduction a couple times, everybody who's done this a few times, but just in case someone hasn't and doesn't know what they're doing or who we are, I'll do just a little quick introduction. My name is Marie. I am a tour guide for Chicago Detours. I moved to Chicago in 2012 to work on my PhD in urban history. I fell in love with the city of Chicago just as soon as I landed here and decided I would just spend the rest of my life studying it. And now I have a job where I get to talk to people all the time about Chicago and study Chicago all the time. It's a dream come true kind of job for me. So thanks so much for allowing me to talk to you about the city. Chicago Detours was founded in 2010 by Amanda Scottice, who many of you have seen doing these virtual tours and talks. She founded the company as a tour company for curious people with the mission to share stories in places that even locals don't know. So for 10 years, we've been taking people into beautiful interior spaces downtown, historic bars, neighborhoods around the city, going to wonderful historic restaurants, things like that. And with the current situation that we're in, we transitioned to doing these virtual talks as a way to continue sharing those little bit overlooked people and places and stories that even locals don't know. So that's how we're continuing to pursue our passion and talk about the things that we really love so much. So now that I've explained that, let me share my screen. And we are sharing these talks for free during the pandemic. And the pandemic is still ongoing even as Chicago starts to enter phase 3. But we are offering them for free and asking people to donate if they are able to. So $5 to $25 would be very much appreciated. And I will have a little information again at the end about how you can do that. If nothing else, please follow us on our social media channels, and you can see we're at Chicago Detours on Facebook and Instagram. Tell your friends, come back for another one. And with all that said, now it's time. Okay, so we're talking about 5 trailblazing Chicago inventors today, and I wanted to frame this talk in the sense of inventors in the sense of big ideas. One of Chicago's official city mottos is "Make no small plans." This is a quote by Daniel Burnham. And I think you'll see with these 5 people that I've selected that Chicagoans over the years have made big plans, they have big ideas, and these 5 innovators changed the world, sometimes in ways that were really important and sometimes in ways that were kind of just for fun. But I think the kind of connecting factor here is that they're all innovations that are going to kind of surprise you. At least I hope they'll surprise you. These are innovations that I think a lot of people maybe don't realize have their origins right here in Chicago. So the first one I want to talk about is Dr. Bernard Fantus. So Dr. Bernard Fantus is the inventor of blood banks. This is a life-saving idea. Now, Dr. Fantus was a Jewish Hungarian immigrant to Chicago. He arrived in Chicago in 1902. He did a lot of research early in his career on medications, some of which are actually really helpful to us still today. Like, he was the person who came up with the idea that medicine for children should be sweet. It should taste kind of like candy. That makes it easier for children to take it. Like, a spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down. That's Dr. Fantus. But the thing that he's most remembered for, of course, is this idea of the blood bank. So the original idea for this was sort of floating around at the time. He maybe didn't come up with the original idea, but he definitely put it into practice and popularized it for America. He was working at Cook County Hospital. He recognized how necessary it was for there to be a steady supply of clean, healthy blood for blood transfusions. Here's Cook County Hospital. Built in the early 19-teens, and this is still how it looks. They're, redeveloping it right now, actually restoring it. And here's a diagram of those early blood transfusions from the turn of the century. So he successfully set up the first permanent blood bank in America at the Cook County Hospital in 1937. And his daughter was credited with coming up with the term blood bank, but he immediately recognized how useful that term would be because he knew everyone instinctively is going to know what a bank is and how it works. And so he seized on that term, decided this is what we're going to call it. And within a year or two of that first blood bank being set up at the Cook County Hospital in 1937, hospitals and community blood banks were set up all across the country. So that was a life-saving idea, caught on like wildfire. Started right here in Chicago, thanks to Dr. Fantus. And there was a Fantus clinic at Cook County Hospital for, I don't know, maybe a century until Cook County Hospital closed out. All right, next, we're cruising. Josephine Cochrane. By the way, I have this fancy new historical pointer. So Josephine Cochrane was the inventor of the dishwasher. So this is a domestic revolution for women. So Josephine Cochrane was a wealthy housewife in Gilded Age Chicago. She was a member of the elite class of society. She had a problem. Her kitchen staff kept chipping her fine china whenever they were washing up after a big dinner party. So she started washing the dishes herself. If you can't get it done right, you just do it yourself. But that was a lot of work. She didn't want to keep doing that. So she was a pretty smart lady. She decided she was going to solve this problem. She set up in the shed outside her house. She was going to invent something that would do it for her. So working in this shed, she created a machine with a rack that would hold the plates in place so they wouldn't chip each other. They couldn't bump up against each other. And then jets of water would shoot across them to get them clean. And voila, that's the first commercial dishwasher in history. So she patented this in 1886. She displayed her machine at the 1893 World's Fair. She founded her own company to sell it, the Garris Cochrane Dishwashing Machine Company. By the way, Garris is her maiden name. She was very ahead of her time, taking her maiden name. She hyphenated her name in the 1890s. She was a tough lady. And she did this all as a widow, by the way. She was widowed in the 1880s. She was a cool lady. And took her machine out and started selling it with this company. So originally only big restaurants and hotel kitchens were interested. It was kind of an industrial product, but eventually it did kind of catch on as a home product when the KitchenAid company bought the patent in the 19-teens. They turned it into something that you could have in your own home, and it debuted as a KitchenAid product for home use in 1949, and then it just really took off from there, so that almost every home in America ended up with a dishwasher throughout the 1950s up to the present. Huge revolution for homemakers. Now, Margaret Vinci Heldt. She invented the beehive hairdo. It's a style that defined an era. So she was born in Chicago to Italian immigrant parents. Grew up on the West Side. As a child, she loved beauty. She loved doing hair. She was fascinated by going to the hair salon. She knew she wanted to do it her whole life. When she went to beauty school in the 1930s, she couldn't afford the practice hairpiece that was required for the class. So her mother let her cut off her long hair, and they sewed the hair onto a piece of burlap sack so that she could practice in the class. So she opened up her own salon in 1950, right on Michigan Avenue. She became kind of high-end, you know, hairstylist for the elite of Michigan Avenue. And this is where she met her date with Hair Destiny. The editors of a national beauty magazine approached her in 1960. They asked her to create a hairstyle that would match the new decade, the 1960s. So what she came up with was the beehive hairstyle. And she said she was inspired by a hat that she saw, kind of a pillbox style hat. But what she wanted it to do was to be something really modern, something that you could wear like a helmet, basically. And there would be so much hairspray on there, she said, that it would just stay in place for days. A woman, kind of a working woman, right, in the 1960s, could do her hair up like this in the beehive, spray it, and then it would just stay there for days without a hair falling out of place. That was her idea. So this became a huge sensation in the 1960s. You could see it on stars from, these are the Ronettes, Audrey Hepburn, Barbara Streisand, and then periodically from the 1960s up to the present, the beehive will make a little resurgence. This became an absolute sensation, defined the 1960s, and then still is a popular recurring hairstyle. Now, let's move to the next one. Oh, I had a question here. Trenton asked, let me do this question before I forget it. Was the dishwasher displayed in Bertha Palmer's women's building? That is a great question. I should have looked into this. It was either in the women's building or the electricity building. Great question. I'll look into it. I wonder if Amanda knows, who's our resident 1893 expert. I'll find out. It's a great question. Okay, our next Chicago innovator, Dr. Percy Julian. So Dr. Percy Julian is the inventor of synthetic hormones and synthetic steroids. And I bet this is an innovation that has affected basically every single person who is watching this, maybe every person in America, maybe every person in the world. This is a huge revolution in medicine. So Dr. Percy Julian was born in Alabama in the Jim Crow South. His parents worked very hard to ensure that their children had access to higher education amidst very terrible circumstances. He eventually earned a college degree at a mostly white college in Indiana, and before going on to graduate school at Harvard. However, racist backlash there forced him to complete his studies overseas in Vienna, where he could have kind of a more comfortable environment. He became the third African-American in history to receive a PhD in chemistry, third African-American ever, 1931. So this was very good news for the world that he managed to persevere and against all these odds to complete his PhD in chemistry, because the innovations that he created really went on to make a really huge impact. So working as a chemist, he came back to America after getting his degree in Vienna, and got a job as a chemist for the Glidden Company in Chicago. And it was there that he started doing experiments on plants and finding ways to synthesize different hormones and steroids from plants. So in this field, he was able to synthesize cortisone, which is used to treat things like rheumatoid arthritis and other inflammatory ailments. So if you've ever gone to the doctor and your doctor prescribed steroids for any reason, that is probably thanks to Dr. Julian finding a way to synthesize those from other sources than just from our own bodies. Later, he was able to find a way to synthesize hormones like testosterone or progesterone or estrogen, which are used to treat hormone imbalances, very important. Also goes into things like creating birth control. In 1950, Dr. Julian, oh, I have a great photo of him, by the way, in his lab. In 1950, Dr. Julian moved with his family to Oak Park to start his own research firm and company, Julian Laboratories. Someone said, let me pause and answer questions, and then I want to talk about this story because it's really good. So PhD, not MD, correct. He had a PhD in chemistry, although his discoveries in chemistry were applied for medical use. And Glidden as the paint company now, great question. I'm not 100% sure if they're actually related. I should have looked into it. I don't really know. Glidden. Someone Google that while we're talking. We'll come back to it during the question and answer at the end, because now I'm very curious. Okay. So let me talk about what happened when he went to Oak Park. So in 1950, Dr. Julian moved with his family to Oak Park. He left the Glidden company that he was working for. He wanted to create his own company, Julian Laboratories, to expand his ability to work on hormones. Synthetic hormones is particularly where he wanted to expand. And the Oak Park community, they were the first African-American family to move to Oak Park in 1950. They faced a huge backlash. Before they even moved in, their house was set on fire. They decided they were going to move in anyway. Within a year of moving in, their house was attacked with dynamite while the family was in the house. So Dr. Julian and his son would just stay up every night. Show you what this looked like. Stay up every night and wait with a shotgun to try to protect the family because they were facing such a terrible backlash. Other neighbors within the neighborhood did band together and try to protect the family, to support them. So there was a little bit of both. People were trying to protect them and welcome them. Other people were really trying to threaten them and actually kill them. But that was what they were facing in Oak Park in the 1950s. Now, he did go on to create Julian Laboratories. It turned out to be very successful in producing synthetic hormones. They eventually sold their facilities to GlaxoSmithKline, which is a huge corporation now, still today. Dr. Julian died in 1975, and there's now a Percy Julian Middle School in Oak Park. So, kind of come full circle from being not welcome in Oak Park to now they celebrate their connection to this very famous, groundbreaking chemist who made such a big impact on the world. He was also honored with a postage stamp at one point. That was one of the honors I found for him. Okay. Last one. Leo Seltzer, inventor of roller derby. Now this is Chicago's own sport. Chicago has a lot of claims to sports fame, but as far as sports it's invented, there are a couple. Softball is one. Roller derby, flat track roller derby is another. So Leo Seltzer to me is a real showman at heart. He's a real kind of old Chicago figure. I don't know if you find these so much anymore, but he started out in Montana. That's where he was born. Then he traveled around the country trying to make his fortune in different ways. He started out trying to be a film promoter. When that didn't work out, he got into the dance marathon business, which was like a huge craze in the 1920s, where people would just dance for days on end until they fell over exhausted, and it was like a competition. People were trying to win money. So then he moved to Chicago in the 1930s to try to make a bunch of money. 1930s in Chicago is not a time to, get rich, but he was going to try it. And you know what? He did. He succeeded. So as the legend goes, he was sitting in a restaurant. He read a newspaper article about the roller skating craze sweeping the nation, which was true. Roller skating was totally huge in the 1930s, and especially in Chicago. And he kind of thought, maybe I combine this with the competition thing that I'm good at with the dance marathons. And voila, that is how he invented the sport of roller derby. There we go. So the original roller derby was like on a flat track. People would race in these teams. He organized them into teams and then took it on the road. As you can see in this little poster, the Transcontinental, is that what it's called? Yeah, Transcontinental Roller Derby League was his original league. But very quickly he realized that what people were really into was not the racing element so much, or the competition. It was like the spectacle. And so people wanted to see collisions. They wanted to see fights. They liked the characters. And so that started to be more and more what was emphasized, and less the actual races. And so it got more and more colorful into the 1940s, into the 50s and 60s, and especially took off in the late 40s into the 50s when it was televised. It was some of the earliest competitions that were on broadcast TV in the 1950s. So that early roller derby league continued into the 1970s, where it kind of fell into it was passed on to his son, and then it kind of fell away after his son let it go by the wayside, and then it was resurrected in more recent years, the sport of roller derby, by our more modern competitors and tournaments that you can find nowadays, like the Windy City Roller Girls. Okay, that was it, 20 minutes. So here's the last thing I want to say. I said I'd come back to it and then we'll have questions for a few minutes. So thank you so much for all your support. Thanks for coming to these. I really love doing them. It's so exciting to have people keep coming back, even when it's nice outside, even when things start opening up again. If you can donate, here's how you can do that. You'll see it on your screen. We really appreciate your support right now. It allows us to continue offering these free live virtual tours. And we suggest $5 to $25. Every little bit helps, even if you only have a few dollars to spare. So you can see PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, or you can buy a gift card. If you can't donate, that's okay. Leave us a review. Those help a lot. If you can leave a review on TripAdvisor, I'm just going to throw that out there because the one on the top right now has 4 stars. So if you can put a 5-star one, that would be great. Yeah, stay safe and keep sticking with us. Oh, and I said I was going to show you what's new. Why is this still here? Go away. Oh, here we go. So let me show you what's new with our virtual tours. So a lot of you have seen this page because this is how you signed up. So we have the historic happy hour, we have the live virtual tours on the weekends. What's new is that for June, we're starting to organize them more clearly along themes. We were starting to do this a little bit naturally, and now we're just doing it a lot more. Oh, you don't see the website? Oh, I'm doing the wrong screen. You are right, you are right. Okay. Easy fix, I think. Can you see it now? Can you guys see the website? Thank you. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Okay, so as I was saying, so we started organizing these thematically. So on Mondays, we're going to have conversations with interesting Chicagoans whose work talks about history and architecture or culture in interesting ways. On Monday, June 8th, for example, we'll be talking to Phil from Cape Horn Illustrations, who does really beautiful illustrations of housing types. If you came to the Ravenswood talk that I did on Sunday, you saw some of his illustrations. He allowed me to use them very graciously, and now he's coming back to talk about why he does them and how he does them. It's going to be great. We're also limiting those to 50 guests. So they're going to be kind of more exclusive. They're going to allow us to have really interesting conversations with people. We're going to do Travel Tuesdays, where we go on little excursions to places nearby, or sometimes Amanda will take us out to, Sicily or places that she knows from her time as a tour guide with Rick Steves, things like that. And People Stories is going to be our Wednesday series. This was the first of those, actually, where we're going to talk about people specifically, like 5 interesting inventors, 5 artists, things like that. On Thursday, Architecture Crash Course is going to start. That's a 12-week series that is going to continue and just take you through a crash course of Chicago architecture history. And Friday is going to be food, drink, and fun. So like bar history. This Friday is pizza, classic pizza places. That might be like theater history or things that are sort of related to how Chicagoans have a good time. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we'll continue the neighborhood tours like we've done. Great. Now I've explained that. You can see how the themes work out. So if you want to sign up for something specific, now that makes sense. Okay. Now I've explained that. I will really stop the share and we can talk to each other. Okay. Questions. Did I miss any questions? I feel like someone asked a question and I missed it because I was kind of, oh, where was the primary roller derby rink in Chicago during 1940s and 50s? Okay, there were a lot, so it's hard to pick a main one. If Amanda's watching, I feel like she was, she might know more. I know that the very first race for roller derby was at the Chicago Coliseum, which is in the South Loop, and is where the Buddhist Center is now. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, the Chicago Coliseum was like a huge center, and that's where the very first roller derby races were. Did I miss another one? Dishwasher was part of the fully electric kitchen exhibit. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for looking it up. Oh, Amanda doesn't know about the 40s ranking. Yeah, there were so many. They were like all over. It was a huge, huge craze. There was a huge craze. I saw like a few referred to as I was doing the research for the roller derby history, and like nothing comes to mind because it was just, they were like naming them like one after the other. You know, a match here, match here, match here. I don't think there was like one main one besides the Chicago Coliseum. I would say that. Okay, other questions? I hope people will come back for the new format. I did see people mention that they liked the daily format. I think it'll be cool. I hope people will like it. We got some good feedback on Travel Tuesdays when we started setting that up. I think it'll be fun. So I hope that people will pick what they like, come to all of them, or come to a series. Yeah. Other questions? Oh, thanks, Pat. I like coming to these. It's so fun. It's so fun to come and see people and to have our regulars come. And I appreciate everyone's feedback so much, and I appreciate your good questions. And it's always, I feel like I learn stuff from doing these as well, because somebody will always give me a question that ends up stumping me, and then I look it up and then I learn something. So it's a ton of fun to do these. Okay, you know what? I think everybody's good. Oh yeah, somebody asked, did you do a stained glass presentation? Yeah, we did, the Tiffany stained glass. It might be off our YouTube now. We had to clear stuff out, but check our Facebook videos section. Anything that was up on Facebook Live stays up on the videos section. Oh, Travel Tuesday. Good tip, Pat. Okay, so do we have more questions? It's still a couple minutes early, but I feel like people are kind of mingling out. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes. I don't want to end too soon. People can ask me more questions. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Roy. Everyone's really nice. Everybody come back for the pizza one on Friday. Check out the Chicago architecture crash course too. I think they're gonna, well, I mean, I'm just mentioning all of them because I think they're all gonna be really cool. And the one I'm doing next week is a topic I love a lot, which is 5 Chicago outsider artists. Oh, Stephen asks, is there a Chicago Inventors Museum? No, that's a great idea. Stephen, do you want to go in on it with me? There are so many Chicago inventions and ideas that came out of Chicago. I originally had 10 that I was going to do, and then that was too crazy for a 20-minute talk. And 10 was like narrowed down from like 20. There are so many. It's a lot. Sounds like a job for me to demand it. Yeah, that's true. That's fair enough. Yeah, there are a lot. I mean, this is what I was saying. This Chicago is a city of big ideas and big plans. And I think the through line of this talk was that these are really kind of Chicago stories. Like there was an immigrant, you know, Dr. Fantus was an immigrant. Margaret Vinci was the child of immigrants. Dr. Julian was part of the Great Migration. Chicago is a place where ideas happen. Oh, Roy asked, was roller derby initially women participants, men, or both? It was initially both, and then it transitioned to being just women in about the late 30s, early 40s. Do I know the background of the old green lights on Lower Wacker? No, I don't. That would be a good question for Alex or Amanda. Good question. Pat asked, did I finish my PhD and now use my knowledge at detours? Great question, Pat. No, I didn't finish my PhD. I advanced to candidacy and then transitioned out of academia into Chicago detours. I do still use my knowledge at Chicago detours. So I finished most of my PhD and then decided to find a job. But I do use all of my grad school training at Chicago Detours. The roller derby, oh, and I can finish my PhD at any point. Just want to point that out. The roller derby uniform would not look good on most men. Probably true. Although, you know, some roller derby, like referees are men. They look pretty good. Why was it transitioned to women only? That's a great question. There are a ton of histories of roller derby, like good books. And I would love to know more about it. I used to be a huge fan of roller derby, and then I kind of stopped in recent years. Like I used to go to the roller derby matches. Yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah, Amanda has answered the question about the green lights. I knew Amanda would know. There's like a ton of stuff out there about the early history of roller derby. Maybe I'll write a good blog post about it. There's like a ton to know. Okay, well, we did get into some good questions in the end, and it is now time. So I'm glad we hung out for a couple more minutes. All right, thanks everybody so much. We will be back again tomorrow night and the night after that and the night after that. So thanks everybody. Stay safe, and we will see you all again tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye everybody.